If you've ever been called the responsible one in your family, you'll understand the story before I even begin. My name is Rose Parker, I'm 33, and for as long as I can remember, my family has treated me like their personal problem solver. I was the one who fixed what broke, soothed who argued, and made sure everyone else stayed comfortable, even when I wasn't. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. So when my sister looked across the table that Sunday and said, "Just don't come next week, okay? It'll ruin the vibe," I thought I misheard her. The restaurant buzzed with lazy afternoon chatter. We were sitting at our usual corner booth, my mom to my left, my dad at the end, my brother Eric scrolling through his phone, and my sister Claire doing what she did best, pretending to be effortlessly charming while taking quiet digs at me. At first, I laughed. Too loudly, maybe. "Good one," I said, expecting someone else to join in. But no one did. My mom's smile froze halfway, then melted into something uncertain. She looked down and started refilling everyone's water glasses, her go-to move when things got awkward. My dad cleared his throat but said nothing. That's when I realized she wasn't joking. Claire leaned back, swirling the last sip of her mimosa, her gold bracelets catching the sunlight. "I'm serious," she said lightly. "We just want next weekend to be relaxed. You know how you get with your lists and schedules. It's like vacation boot camp." I blinked. The silence pressed against my chest. "Relax?" I repeated, trying to keep my voice even. Eric looked up from his phone, frowning. "Claire, come on." But she cut him off with a smirk. "It's fine. She can take it." And that was the part that stung the most. Not the words themselves, but the way everyone else just let it happen. My dad shifted, pretending to look for the check. My mom's eyes stayed glued to her napkin. No one said, "That's not fair," or "Claire, stop." They just let me stand there in the middle of that sentence, holding my dignity like a fragile plate. I smiled. Because that's what I do. When I'm hurt, I smile. If I defend myself, I'm too sensitive. If I stay quiet, I'm cold. But if I smile, they can all pretend everything's fine. So I did. I smiled, picked up my fork, and took one last bite of cheesecake that suddenly tasted like chalk. "Sure," I said. "Whatever makes it easier." They thought that was the end of it. But that night, as I sat alone in my apartment, the silence felt heavier than usual. The glow from my laptop lit up the pile of printed itineraries, booking confirmations, and deposit receipts scattered across the table. All the proof of the work I'd done for their vacation, the one I was now uninvited from. 8 days in the Mediterranean. A villa in Tuscany I'd found after weeks of searching. Group tours, vineyard visits, a private cooking class in Florence, all carefully planned, booked, and paid for under my name. I stared at the spreadsheet, color-coded, perfectly organized, like everything else I'd ever done for them, and realized I'd spent years building their comfort at the cost of my own. Every favor, every apology, every "sure, I'll cover it," had been my silent way of keeping the family together. And for what? To be told I ruined the vibe? Something inside me clicked. It wasn't rage, not the kind that explodes and burns out. It was quieter, colder. A slow shift from fixer to observer. If I was the problem, I thought, then maybe it was time to see what happened when the problem stopped fixing things. I opened my laptop and clicked on the first tab, the group tour confirmation for all 5 of us. My cursor hovered over the cancel booking button. A small, neat pop-up appeared. Refunds may take up to 10 business days. I smiled again, but this time it wasn't the same kind of smile. If they wanted a relaxed trip, one without my lists and schedules, they were about to get exactly that. And for the first time in years, I felt calm. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was angry. Anger burns fast and leaves smoke. What I felt was something steadier, colder. A kind of clarity that only shows up when you finally stop begging people to see your worth. By 2 a.m., I had a fresh cup of coffee in my hand and my laptop open to the itinerary spreadsheet, the one I'd spent 2 months perfecting. Each tab was labeled neatly: flights, villa, tours, transfers, emergency info. Every color meant something. Blue for confirmations, yellow for pending, green for paid. For the first time, I looked at it not as their organizer, but as their gatekeeper. They didn't realize it, but every single confirmation, every email, every deposit, every signed agreement was under my name. The credit card?
Mine.
The contact number?
Mine.
I'd done it because no one else ever had the time to handle logistics. And honestly, I'd liked being useful.
Until now.
I clicked open the villa booking first. 8 days for bedrooms, private pool, countryside view. The perfect Tuscan escape. I'd spent hours negotiating that rate. The host, Marco, had been friendly, quick to respond. I pulled up our messages. The reservation was refundable until 48 hours before check-in. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a long minute. Then I typed, "Hello, Marco. Plans have changed for our group. Please cancel the reservation under my name, Rose Parker. Thank you."
Simple.
Polite. Final. The next morning, I tackled the group tour, a private historical tour of Florence for 5. Non-refundable, but transferable. I emailed the company and requested the booking be transferred to a different date, the week after my family's trip. The confirmation came within the hour. Then came the vineyard excursion. Deposit fully refundable. Cancelled. The cooking class? I didn't cancel that one. I just edited the reservation, changed the meeting address to a different spot across town, one that didn't exist. It would take them hours to figure it out. It wasn't about being cruel. I wasn't out to humiliate them. I just wanted them to feel what it was like when the person who held everything together quietly let go. By the time the sun rose, my kitchen table was covered in papers, printed receipts, confirmation emails, sticky notes. My phone buzzed with messages from Claire in the family group chat. Claire: "Hey guys, just checking. Are we all packed for next week?" Mom: "Almost done. So excited." Eric: "Rose, can you remind me what time the flight is again?" I stared at that message for a full minute. Eric, the only one who had even tried to defend me that day. I typed back, "I'll send it later today." I didn't. For the rest of the week, I went through the motions: work, gym, errands, but everything felt sharper, clearer. At the office, people noticed how calm I was. My boss even said, "You seem lighter, Rose." Maybe because for once, I wasn't carrying everyone else's weight. On Friday night, I got a call from my mom. Her voice was cheerful, but underneath it, there was something tight. "Sweetheart," she said, "Claire told me you're not coming. Are you sure? I don't want you to feel left out." Left out. Not hurt. Not betrayed. Left out, like I'd been accidentally skipped over in a game. "I'm sure," I said. "You all should go and enjoy. I'll be fine." Silence stretched on the line. Then she said, "You've always been so dependable." I almost laughed. That word used to feel like a compliment. Now it sounded like a sentence. "Yeah," I said softly. "Not anymore." When I hung up, I felt a quiet satisfaction. Not revenge, not yet, just the peace that comes when you finally stop rescuing people who never learned to swim. On Sunday, their departure day, I woke early. I made myself pancakes, something I hadn't done in months, and watched the clock tick past the time they were supposed to board their flight. Around noon, my phone started buzzing, group messages lighting up one after another. Mom: "Rose, the villa isn't answering." Claire: "What's going on?" "The address isn't matching what's on the website." Eric: "The tour company says we're not booked until next week. Did you change something?" I sipped my coffee and stared at the screen. Then, for the first time in a long time, I let the messages go unanswered. They would figure it out, eventually. They'd have to. By evening, Eric called directly. I almost didn't pick up, but curiosity won. "Rose," he said, breathless, his voice echoing in what sounded like an airport. "What happened with the bookings?" "Everything's a mess. Claire's freaking out, Mom's crying, Dad's on the phone with his credit card company." I took a slow breath. "I guess things are just relaxed now," I said. He went silent for a beat. Then, softly, "You did this on purpose, didn't you?" "Claire didn't want me to ruin the vibe," I replied, my tone calm. "So, I made sure she got what she wanted." "Rose," his voice dropped, somewhere between disbelief and guilt. But I didn't wait to hear the rest. I just said, "Have a great trip, Eric," and hung up. Then I turned my phone off. That night, I slept better than I had in years. When I woke up the next morning, sunlight poured through my blinds, and for once, there was no alarm, no checklist waiting on the counter. Just quiet. I made myself coffee, sat by the window, and opened my phone. 23 missed calls. 16 messages. 3 voicemails. The group chat was a digital storm. "Claire, the villa won't let us in. They said the reservation was canceled." "Mom, Rose, honey, please call us. We're standing outside with luggage." "Dad, we need to sort this out. Did you use your card for the deposit?" "Eric, I'm trying to book a hotel for the night. Everything's full."
What's going on?
I stared at the screen, watching their words tumble in panic. For years, I'd been the buffer between them and the world, the one who solved these little crises before they became disasters. And now, for the first time, they were living what it felt like without me. The irony wasn't lost on me. They wanted relaxed. Well, nothing's more relaxing than standing in the Tuscan countryside with no place to sleep and a half-finished itinerary. By noon, I listened to the first voicemail. It was my mom. Her voice trembled with exhaustion. "Sweetheart, I don't know what happened. The villa said you canceled. Your father's trying to reach them again. Please, if there's been a mistake, just fix it. We're all tired, and she's saying things she shouldn't. Just call us back." Then came Claire's message, the opposite of remorseful. "If this is some kind of joke, it's not funny, Rose. You always have to control everything, and now you've ruined everyone's trip. I swear you need therapy." I actually laughed, an honest, unrestrained laugh that startled even me. It wasn't bitterness anymore. It was recognition.
She still didn't get it. None of them did.
That night, I opened my laptop again, this time not to cancel or rearrange, but to check the credit card portal. Every charge was reversed. Every refund safely back in my account. They would survive. They always did. But maybe, just maybe, they'd learn something this time. 2 days later, Eric finally caught me. I was at work, eating lunch at my desk when my phone buzzed with his name. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hey, Eric." He sighed, that weary, older brother kind of sigh that carried frustration and guilt in equal measure. "You could have at least warned me."
"I did," I said.
"A week ago, when I was told not to come." "Come on, Rose." His voice softened. "You know Mom and Dad didn't mean that." Claire says stupid things all the time." "Yeah," I said quietly. "And everyone lets her." He was silent for a long moment. Then, almost gently, he asked, "Did you really cancel everything?" "Not everything," I replied. "Just enough to make them realize who's been holding it all together." Eric chuckled, but it wasn't mocking. It was that low, resigned sound people make when they realize they've been looking the other way too long. "You know she's been crying, right?"
"Claire."
"First time I've seen her actually admit she was wrong." "Has she said it to me?" "Not yet." "Then I'm not interested." I could hear the airport noise behind him, the kind of chaos I used to handle for everyone else. He said, "We're flying home early. The trip's basically ruined." "Relaxed enough for you?" I asked lightly. He laughed then, a real laugh this time. "Okay, you made your point. I just hope you're proud of yourself." I paused before answering. "I'm not proud," I said honestly. "But I'm done." That night, I sat with my phone face down, a candle flickering beside me, and thought about the years that led up to this. All the birthdays I'd organized, the bills I'd quietly covered, the way I'd turned chaos into comfort for them. And in return, silence when I was the one who needed defending. Revenge, I realized, wasn't always about destruction. Sometimes it was about absence, letting the weight you carried fall exactly where it belonged. When they landed back home 3 days later, I got one final message from my dad. "Dad, Rose, we're back. Things got complicated. We'll talk soon. I think we owe you an apology." Not, "I'm sorry. Not yet." But it was a start. Later that evening, I went out for a walk, something simple, something just for me. The sky was painted with the deep gold of early dusk, and the air smelled faintly of rain. For the first time, I didn't feel like someone's daughter, sister, or planner. I just felt like me. Still, I knew the storm wasn't over. Families don't just break patterns overnight. There would be guilt calls, awkward dinners, long silences, and careful reconnections. And when that time came, I'd decide whether or not I wanted to be part of it. But for now, I was content to let them sit in their own undone plans, to let the absence of my effort speak louder than any confrontation ever could. That's the thing about being the family fixer. When you finally stop fixing, everyone notices, even the ones who swore you were the problem. They came back on a Thursday evening, 3 days earlier than planned. I knew the moment I saw my mom's text. "Mom, we're home. Can we come by tomorrow? We just want to talk." There was no punctuation error, no frantic tone this time. Just stillness. Like they finally realized they couldn't treat me like a safety net anymore. For a few seconds, I thought about ignoring it. But that wasn't who I wanted to be. This wasn't about holding a grudge. It was about drawing a line. So I replied,
Sure.
6 p.m., all day at work, my chest felt tight. Not with nerves, but anticipation. I knew this conversation would be the real test of whether they understood what they'd done. At 5:55 sharp, my doorbell rang. When I opened the door, there they were, my mom, dad, Eric, and Claire. For people who had spent years relying on me without realizing it, they looked different somehow. Tired. Deflated. The kind of tired that comes when you can't pretend anymore. Claire's hair was pulled back in a messy bun, her eyes red-rimmed. She clutched her purse like a shield. Mom's face was pale, her usual bright smile replaced by uncertainty. Dad looked uncomfortable in his own skin, like he'd been rehearsing this moment and still didn't know how to start. I stepped aside. "Come in." No one spoke at first. They all just stood in my living room, the same space where I'd spent nights planning their vacations, birthdays, and surprise parties. The irony wasn't lost on me. Finally, my dad cleared his throat. "We owe you an apology." I nodded. "Yes, you do." He blinked, maybe expecting me to soften it. I didn't. Mom spoke next. "Sweetheart, we didn't realize how much you did for us until..." She trailed off, eyes glancing toward Claire. "Until everything fell apart?" I asked gently. Claire shifted in her seat. "I didn't mean it the way it sounded," she muttered. "You said I ruined the vibe," I reminded her. "That was pretty clear." Her voice cracked. "You make everything so structured. And sometimes it feels like we can't breathe around you." I folded my hands in my lap. "And you thought excluding me would make that better?" She flinched, looking down. I didn't think it through. "No," I said. "You never do. Because you know someone else will clean up after you." That hit her harder than I expected. She blinked fast, her jaw trembling. "You're right," she whispered. "We all do that." For a moment, no one spoke. The air between us was heavy with things that had been unsaid for years. Mom finally broke the silence. "When we got there, and everything was gone, the villa, the tours, everything, I was angry at you." "I figured," I said softly. "But then I realized," she continued, "that I wasn't really angry at you. I was angry at myself. Because I knew I'd taken you for granted. We all had. I saw the way Claire snapped at you, the way your dad stayed quiet, the way I pretended not to notice. You've carried this family for years, and we let you." Her voice cracked on the last word. Dad nodded. "Your mom's right. We let you do everything because it was easy. You're efficient, capable, organized. We told ourselves you liked it. Maybe we wanted to believe that." "I did like helping," I admitted. "But I hated being invisible while doing it." That landed like a stone in still water. Quiet, but impossible to ignore. Eric leaned forward. "They didn't tell you, but when everything went wrong in Italy, it was chaos. No one knew how to call the villa, or how to file a refund, or even what insurance we had. You'd handled all that. We didn't realize how helpless we were without you." I smiled faintly. "Now you do." Claire swallowed. "You could have just told me. You didn't have to, sabotage the trip." I met her eyes. If I'd told you, would you have listened? She hesitated. Probably not. Exactly. Silence again. This time not out of tension, but recognition. The kind that seeps into a room when people finally see the truth without anyone having to scream it. After a while, Mom reached over and touched my hand. You don't have to fix things anymore, Rose. Not unless you want to. Her voice was shaky, but her grip was steady. I felt something loosen in my chest. I hadn't realized how much I'd needed to hear that. Not just the apology, but the acknowledgement that I was allowed to not be the fixer. I'm not mad anymore, I said finally. But things are going to be different. I'm not doing all the planning, all the emotional labor, all the smoothing over. If something breaks, you'll have to handle it yourselves. Dad nodded. Fair enough. Claire's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Rose.
I really am.
You didn't deserve that. I believed her. Not because the words were perfect, but because they were uncomfortable. Real apologies always are. We talked for another hour, quietly, honestly. It wasn't dramatic, no screaming, no tears on the floor. Just the slow rebuilding of something that had cracked long before that Sunday lunch. When they finally left, my apartment was silent again. But it was a different kind of silence, not lonely, just peaceful. As I closed the door behind them, I leaned against it and let out a long, shaky breath. For years, I thought keeping the peace meant keeping quiet. Turns out, peace sometimes comes from letting the silence speak for you. A few weeks passed after that night, and life began to settle into a new kind of rhythm. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. My phone wasn't buzzing every hour with questions like, "What time are we leaving?" Or, "Can you handle this for me?" There were no endless spreadsheets, no last-minute fixes, no quiet guilt when I said no. Just space, the kind I hadn't had in years. I started using my weekends differently. I slept in. I cooked because I wanted to, not because a family dinner needed coordinating. I went for walks in the park near my apartment, sometimes with no destination in mind. For the first time, my life wasn't built around other people's convenience. A few Sundays later, my mom called again. But this time, her tone was light. "We're doing lunch next weekend," she said. "Just something small at home. No itinerary, no themes.
Just food and conversation.
Would you like to come?" I hesitated for a moment, remembering that earlier lunch, the one that changed everything.
But then I said, yeah.
I'd like that. When I arrived that day, something was different. There was no chaos, no bickering over who forgot to bring what. Claire was in the kitchen actually cooking. My dad was setting the table. Mom was laughing with Eric about some old memory. No one barked orders. No one asked me to check the oven or call for backup napkins. Claire looked up when I walked in. Her face softened. "Hey," she said simply. "I'm glad you came." "Me too," I replied. As we ate, there was a different kind of energy at the table. Relaxed, warm, unforced. It felt like breathing fresh air after years of recycled oxygen. Every few minutes, someone would ask, "Does everyone have what they need?" And for once, it wasn't me asking. After dessert, Claire poured coffee for everyone and sat across from me. "You know," she began, "when you canceled everything, I was furious. I said some awful things to Eric and Mom. But then, standing there in another country, watching them panic while I had no idea what to do, it hit me. You weren't controlling things. You were protecting us." I smiled faintly. "I wasn't trying to be controlling, Claire. I just wanted things to go smoothly." "I know," she said. "And I made you feel like that was something to be ashamed of." She exhaled. "I don't think I ever really saw how much work you put into everything. You made it all look easy." That was the thing about people like me. We made competence look effortless, so no one realized how much effort it actually took. Mom reached across the table, her eyes glossy. "You know, Rose, when we were stranded out there, I kept thinking, this is what she's been holding together all along. Not just trips, but us." I laughed softly. "And you survived." She smiled. "Barely." The room filled with gentle laughter, the kind that warms rather than wounds. It was strange how peace could sneak up on you, Not with grand gestures, but in these quiet, ordinary moments. After lunch, as we stood outside saying our goodbyes, Eric hugged me. "You did what none of us could," he said quietly. "You made us wake up." "I wasn't trying to teach anyone a lesson," I said. "I just finally stopped pretending I was fine." He nodded. "Sometimes that's the same thing." When they drove off, I stood there for a while, watching the car disappear down the street. The air was warm, the sky soft with evening light, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years: lightness. That night, I sat by my window again, a cup of tea in hand. The city buzzed quietly below, the sound of life carrying on. I thought about everything that had happened: the lunch, the silence, the cancellations, the confrontation, all of it. It wasn't just about a trip or a family fight. It was about finally learning that love doesn't mean servitude, and peace doesn't mean silence. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't in destroying someone's comfort, it's in reclaiming your own. Because when people who've always taken you for granted finally have to stand on their own, they start to understand the value of what you gave. And when you finally stop chasing their approval, you start to see your worth clearly. A week later, Claire sent me a picture. Her, Mom, and Dad sitting on the porch, eating takeout pizza. The caption said,
"No itinerary."
"Just family." I smiled and typed back, "That's the best kind." I didn't need them to thank me anymore. I didn't need recognition or control or to be the fixer. I just needed peace, the kind that came from finally letting go of everyone else's expectations and building a life that belonged to me. As the sun dipped below the skyline, I whispered to myself, half smiling, "Guess I didn't ruin the vibe after all." And for the first time, that smile didn't hide anything. It was real, steady, soft, and free.